Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are unpacking something that, well, I think a lot of people suspect is true, but you just rarely see it quantified. It's a bit of a dirty little secret in the creator economy.
It really is.
You scroll through your feed, you see these influencers, these writers, video creators, and from the outside, it looks like a well-oiled machine. It looks like a business.
Yeah, absolutely looks like success.
Yeah.
But if you actually peel back the curtain, for a huge number of them, the engine is missing. They're driving a Ferrari with no motor.
And that engine we're talking about is the email list, or more specifically, the complete lack of one.
Yeah.
We've got a fascinating stack of research today. We're pulling data from a deep analysis of creator behavior, looking at numbers from giants like ConvertKit and HubSpot, and we're mixing that with some really heavy psychological studies on task abandonment.
And the mission today isn't just to say, hey, you need an email list. I think everyone listening probably knows that. The real mission is to solve a paradox.
Yeah.
Why do smart, capable people who can edit video, write incredible essays, build huge audiences, why do they fail to do the one thing they know is the most important for their business?
It's that classic gap between knowing and doing. And as we go through this, we're going to find that the reason it usually isn't laziness. It's actually a design flaw in how we approach work.
Exactly. It's not a character defect. It's a workflow problem.
So let's start with the scale of this, because when I first read this stat from the source material, I honestly thought it was a typo.
It does seem unbelievably high, doesn't it?
It's from a ConvertKit creator report. They analyzed their data, specifically looking at creators with an audience under 10,000. Now, that's the vast majority of the creator economy.
Right. We're not talking about the top 1% here. We're talking about people in the trenches building something.
And they found that over 60% of them have no lead magnet at all.
And we need to be really clear about what no lid magnet means here. We're not saying they have a bad one or, an old one from 2019 they forgot about.
Yeah.
We mean zero. Nothing. Zilch. They might have a little sign up for my newsletter link in their footer, but there's no asset, no incentive, nothing to actually trade for an email address.
60%. That blows my mind, because if you spend 5 minutes on Twitter or LinkedIn or listen to any business podcast, the #1 commandment is build your list.
Don't build on rented land.
You need an asset you own. It's screamed from the rooftops.
It is the ubiquitous advice. And yet, the majority simply aren't doing the fundamental step to make it happen. They hear the advice, they nod along, but they just aren't executing.
And this isn't just a best practice thing. This is a financial issue. We have data here from HubSpot that quantifies exactly how much money is being left on the table by that 60%.
Oh, the HubSpot data is just brutal. If you're in that group, they compared conversion rates across different channels. So say you're trying to sell a course or a coaching slot.
The digital product, anything.
Right. And you try to do that through social traffic, Instagram stories, LinkedIn posts. Your conversion rate is what it is. But if you sell that same thing via email, email converts 3 to 5 times higher.
Okay, let's just pause on that. We're not talking about a 20% bump. We were talking 300 to 500%.
Exactly. It is the difference between making enough for a nice dinner and making enough to, well, pay your rent. If you have 1,000 people following you on social versus 1,000 people on an email list, the asset value of that email list is just mathematically 5 times higher.
So here is the conflict. This is the paradox I really want to dig into.
Yeah.
You have a smart, rational creator. They want to make money. You offer them a lottery ticket, the email list, that is 5 times more likely to win than the one they have. And yet, 60% of them walk away. Why?
That is the million-dollar question. And usually when people try to answer this, they default to judgment. They say, oh, creators are just lazy, or they don't treat it like a real business.
Right, the starving artist stereotype. They just want to create. They don't want to do the work.
But the sources we have today, especially the behavioral psychology research, suggest that's completely wrong. It's not a failure of intelligence or discipline. It's a systemic behavioral issue. It's about how the task itself is structured in their brains.
Okay, let's get into the psychology here, because I think the default assumption, and I've been guilty of thinking this about myself, is that if I'm not doing the thing, I must just be lazy.
It's almost never laziness. It is usually friction. And to understand this, we need to look at what we're actually asking a creator to do when we say, go build a lead magnet.
You make it sound so simple, like one task, just put up a PDF.
Right. But let's explode that task. Let's simulate the reality. You're a creator. You want that 5x revenue. You sit down on a Saturday morning to build your list. What's the actual to-do list you're facing?
Okay, let me walk through it. Step one is creation. I have to write the thing, a guide, a checklist, whatever. I'm staring at a blank Google Doc.
Okay, so you're a writer. That's hat number one.
Step two, design. I can't just email a Word doc. It looks terrible. So now I'm opening Canva. I'm fiddling with margins, picking fonts, trying to make a cover image.
And now you're a graphic designer. Hat number two.
Step three, distribution. I need a way to give this thing to people, so a landing page. Now I'm writing copy for the page, trying to come up with a headline, making sure it looks okay on mobile.
Web developer and copywriter. That's hats 3 and 4.
Step four, technical integration. I have to connect the form on that page to my email provider, right? Dealing with API keys or embed codes.
You're a systems integrator.
And finally, step five, automation. I have to set up the logic so when someone clicks the button, the email actually gets sent to them with the file.
Automation engineer?
I'm exhausted just saying that list out loud.
Exactly. And that is the point. We call it building a list, as if it's one thing. But it's actually 5 different careers stacked in a trench coat.
It turns what should be a simple task into what the source material calls a weekend project.
Yes, the weekend project analogy is so powerful here. Think about the behavioral profile of a creator. What are they really good at?
Shipping content. Short, fast content.
They are good at shipping atomic units of content. A tweet takes 5 minutes, a LinkedIn post, 20 minutes, a TikTok, maybe an hour. They start, they finish, they get that dopamine hit.
Right. The feedback loop is super tight. I write, I publish, I see the likes roll in.
But building a lead magnet funnel, that's not a post. That's a project. That requires you to clear your schedule. You say, okay, this weekend, I'm finally going to figure out ConvertKit and Canva and Zapier.
And we all know what happens when the weekend actually comes.
Life happens. Your kid gets sick. You're tired from the week. You just want to relax. So you push it to next weekend.
And the next weekend turns into next month.
And this brings us to the data from the Nielsen Norman Group on cognitive load. This is really fascinating. They study user experience, and they found that users will abandon tasks when the cognitive load, just the mental effort required, exceeds a certain point.
Okay, and this is the important part.
Even if they desperately want the outcome.
That is the key distinction for me. Even if they desperately want the outcome. It explains the paradox perfectly. The creator wants the email list. They want the 5x sales. But the cognitive load of switching between writer, designer, coder, and engineer is just too much.
It's friction. Pure and simple. Every time you have to switch tools or switch headspaces, you're adding friction. And eventually, the friction outweighs the motivation, and you quit. You go back to writing tweets.
Because tweets are low friction.
Exactly.
It's so interesting because when people complain about this, the advice they get is always very tool-centric. Someone will say, oh, it's hard, just use ConvertKit, it's easy. Or just use Canva, they have templates.
That's what our sources call the tool fallacy.
Why is it a fallacy? I mean, those are great tools, I use them.
They are excellent tools. I love them. But they solve specific verticals. ConvertKit handles the delivery, Canva handles the design, but neither of those tools answers the orchestration problem.
Orchestration, I like that word for it.
It's the connective tissue. It's the questions that stop the creator before they even open the software. Questions like, what should I even offer? How do I position this so people actually want it? How do I tie all this together quickly?
Right. ConvertKit assumes you already have the file. Canva assumes you know what to write on the pages.
It's like giving someone a hammer and a saw and saying, go build a house when they don't have a blueprint.
And the assumption behind that just use X tool advice is that creators want to become professional funnel builders.
Which, spoiler alert, they do not.
No. They want to write about finance or make videos about gardening. They don't want a second career as a systems integrator. They just want the result, the email list, without the big identity shift.
Precisely.
So we've identified the problem. It's the friction of the weekend project and the cognitive load of orchestration. The system is fighting the creator's natural psychology.
Correct.
So now let's pivot to the solution. Because the sources we have don't just admire the problem, they highlight what actually works. And this is where it gets really encouraging for anyone listening who feels buried by that 5-step process.
It's very encouraging. And honestly, some of the data on what really converts is pretty counterintuitive.
Okay, let's start with the format. Because I think a lot of us assume that value equals volume. If I'm going to ask for an email, I need to give them a 50-page ebook. The ultimate guide to everything.
And the data shows that is actually the worst thing you can do.
Really? Why is that?
Well, think about it from the user side. You download a 50-page ebook. It lands in your inbox. What do you do with it?
I tell myself I'm definitely going to read it this weekend. And then it just sits in my downloads folder for 3 years.
Exactly. And every time you see that file, you feel a little pang of guilt because you haven't read it.
Yeah.
Guilt is not a good foundation for a relationship.
Hmm.
The data shows that short PDFs, 5 to 10 pages, checklists, cheat sheets, they actually convert better and build more trust.
Because people actually consume them.
It's a quick win. If I have a problem and you give me a one-page checklist that solves it for me in 10 minutes, I think, wow, this person is really helpful. I trust you.
So for the creator, this is so liberating. You don't need to write a book. You just need to solve one specific problem fast.
Precisely. Lower the bar for yourself and you actually raise the value for the audience.
Okay, what else is working right now?
Quizzes. The data from Interact, they're a big quiz platform, is really compelling. They're seeing conversion rates 2 to 3 times higher than a static download.
I can totally see that. Quizzes are fun. They're about me. What's my creator archetype? Or what's my fitness level?
It triggers the ego.
Yeah.
It's interactive. People just love to learn about themselves. And the third format that's really overperforming is the email mini course.
How's that different from just a PDF?
Instead of giving you a file all at once, I say, I'm going to send you 1 lesson a day for 5 days, straight to your email.
So you're forcing me to open your emails to get the value.
You're building a habit. You're training your subscriber to look for your name in their inbox. So by the end of day 5, you haven't just delivered information, you've established a routine. That's why mini courses work so well for selling higher ticket things later on. You've already proven you show up.
Okay, so we have the formats. Quick wins, quizzes, mini courses. But we still have a problem, don't we? Even a 5-page PDF needs design. A mini course still needs a landing page. We're still in that weekend project tech trap.
You are absolutely right. Knowing the format doesn't solve the friction. But this is where we get to the biggest aha moment in the research. And this requires a fundamental shift in how we think about creating a lead magnet.
This was the part of the deep dive that really lit a light bulb for me. The source material argues that most creators fail because they think they need to create something new.
Right. They sit down and stare at a blank page. But the reality is, if you have been creating content for any amount of time, 6 months, a year, your lead magnet already exists.
It's just buried in your archives.
It is hiding in plain sight. Go look at your analytics. That Twitter thread that went viral, that's a PDF checklist. That LinkedIn post that got 500 saves, that is a reference guide. That YouTube video everyone commented on, that's a mini course.
So the task isn't creation, it's extraction.
Extraction and packaging.
Yeah.
You're taking value that has already been validated by the market. You know people like it because they already clicked on it, and you were just put a gate in front of it.
That reframing changes everything because creation is high cognitive load. Extraction feels like harvesting. It feels way easier.
It is easier. But, and here's the catch, even if you have the content ready to go, you still have to do that copy, paste, design, build, dance. You still have to play systems integrator.
We just keep hitting that tech wall.
We do. And that's why the source material highlights a new category of workflow solutions. They specifically use a concept called MagnetKit as a case study for how to finally solve this.
Yeah, walk us through that workflow difference. How does a tool like that change the weekend project dynamic?
So the philosophy behind something like MagnetKit, and we're seeing this approach gain traction, is to collapse the stack. The workflow becomes, you take your existing content, your text, your thread, your Notion notes, and you just paste it.
Just paste the raw text.
Paste the text, and the system immediately generates the landing page, creates the downloadable asset for you, like the PDF or the quiz logic, sets up the email capture, and handles the analytics.
So it collapses all 5 steps, right? Design, build, connect, automate into just one step.
Correct. It turns a weekend project into a coffee break task.
That is the crucial metric, isn't it? Time to value.
It's the only metric that matters for habit formation. If a task takes 10 hours and needs 5 different tools, you'll do it once a year if you're lucky. You'll procrastinate. But if a task takes 15 minutes and 1 click, you might actually do it every week.
And if you do it every week, suddenly you aren't part of that 60% with no list. You've got 10 lead magnets floating around the internet catching fish for you 24/7.
Exactly. It allows the creator to stay a creator. You write, you paste, you own the list. You don't have to become a part-time CTO.
I think that is such an important distinction. We often tell creators they need to treat it like a business, which they interpret as, I have to do all the things I hate.
But smart businesses don't do things they hate. They automate them, or find better workflows, or they design systems that fit their strengths. If your strength is writing, your growth engine should be powered by writing, not by configuring DNS settings.
So if we zoom out, the lesson from this deep dive isn't just go build an email list. It's more like stop fighting your own psychology.
That is the core of it. The 60% of creators with no list, they aren't failures. They aren't stupid. They are just using a broken map. They're trying to force a weekend project into a daily habit lifestyle, and it just doesn't fit.
So if you're listening to this and you're in that 60% and maybe you're nodding along, feeling a little called out, the message here is not to beat yourself up.
No, absolutely not. The system wasn't built for you.
But now you know. You know that shorter is better. You know that extraction is better than creation. And you know that there are workflows and tools that can just remove the friction.
The whole goal is to lower the activation energy. If you can lower that barrier just enough, the action becomes almost inevitable.
I want to leave our listeners with a thought that really struck me while reading through these studies. We focused heavily on email lists today because that's what the data was about. But this whole concept of the weekend project trap, I feel like that applies to so much more than just marketing.
Oh, it applies to everything.
It makes me wonder, what other high-value goals are you failing to achieve right now? Not because you lack discipline, not because you don't want it, but simply because the workflow you've designed for yourself is a massive mountain instead of a simple step.
That is the question worth answering.
Yeah.
Is it your fitness? Your finances? Where else are you trying to execute a weekend project when what you really need is a coffee break habit?
Friction is the enemy. Go find it and remove it. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.